Today, I'm going to be debunking a myth and explaining whether Fortnite Stretched Resolution makes you play better. This is kind of the same for every game, but particularly Fortnite. And if it helps, drop a like, subscribe, all the good stuff. It really helps out more than you think. And let's get straight into this. So first of all, I want to start off with what is Stretched Resolution? Stretched Resolution, in short, is modifying the game's resolution settings. In other words, creating a custom resolution to display a wider, lower resolution image than the native 16:9 aspect ratio, which is usually like 1920 by 1080. So for example, some players may use 1440 by 1080. I know it's quite a popular one, 1650 by 1080. And there are some other ones, like you can even go to like 1280, which is closer to like a 4:3 aspect ratio, which obviously then kind of expands. And then it gives you this horizontal stretch. And not only do you get that horizontal stretch, but things kind of appear shorter as well, which is just, it's an aspect of it, you know? Now, how do you use stretch resolution? Short and sweet, I'm sure you all know anyway, but it's achieved by changing the resolution settings in your game settings. So for the video settings in game itself or the game config settings, usually this is how it works in the game config settings. So that's the case for Fortnite, your game user settings. And in some cases, you also have to adjust the display settings on your monitor or in your GPU control panel. Now, the advantages of stretch resolution, we're going to get into disadvantages, but starting with advantages, in some games, you will get increased field of view. Now, that isn't the case for Fortnite. It used to, in fact, or I think still, if you use a traditional method, it will actually do the opposite of this. We will get more into that. Or in some cases, it may just give you the standard field of view, so it won't change it at all. But in some games, not Fortnite, it will increase FOV, which was actually the primary advantage. Like, this was the primary advantage. Everyone was switching to it because, you know, in close combat, I guess, or even just generally, you will see more of your surroundings, which helps you spot enemies in game. This increases your competitive advantage. It makes it easier to play. And nonetheless, I guess in the terms of Fortnite, where it either, you know, decreases it or increases it, or sorry, keeps it the same, it can give that illusion, you know? The second advantage would be that you get larger player models. It, of course, you know, stretches it horizontally, which makes the characters wider and in some cases easier to hit. Although people do say this is a placebo, which, don't get me wrong, placebo scientifically does work. You will, you know, most likely still get that advantage because targets look visually easier to track and shoot, but the actual hitbox, at least in Fortnite, is no bigger. So actually, you're kind of still shooting the same thing because, yeah, if it was bigger, I think by now Fortnite would have completely removed it. Another advantage would be improved frame rate, so just better FPS in general, because you're reducing the resolution. It decreases the workload on your GPU, which then results in a smoother gameplay in some cases and higher frame rates. This is very important for, you know, competitive gameplay or just people with lower end systems. This is also one of those primary benefits, FOV, FPS. And as a byproduct of this, you can also lower your input lag. In some cases, it will reduce input lag if it is set up correctly. That is the key thing. I have a whole video on how to set it up if you're going to use it, so check that out if you conclude this video and that's the choice you make. But yeah, lower input lag, faster response time, you know, better reaction times, which equals a competitive advantage. Now, moving on to the disadvantages, depending on the resolution you're using, or even just regardless, you will get a bit of distortion on your image, so your game's graphics aren't going to look as good naturally. Some people do not mind this, but it can ruin the visual fidelity of the game, using some very technical words here, and it makes long-term play a little bit uncomfortable in some cases. Some people don't use it because if you're playing for a long hours, it can really just, I don't know, mess with the eyes. Second disadvantage, this is for Fortnite particularly, but you do actually now lose FOV. You get a loss of FOV, which can be a disadvantage, especially in build battles and just, you know, looking for enemies. The next disadvantage would be, you know, competitive restrictions. This goes for people that are really interested in playing competitively and maybe playing tournaments in the future. Fortnite banned the use of stretch resolution, so you have to use native aspect ratios, so 16:9 when you're playing competitive play. Of course, if you're playing from home, this cannot be monitored, but if you're, you know, at a LAN tournament, it will be, and you cannot use it. So it's better just to get used to not using it. The next disadvantage, you know, there are a few. You get reduced visual clarity. We kind of already touched on this, but you know, lower resolutions inherently are going to reduce the clarity of your game, which is basically just how clear things look. It's going to make it harder to spot smaller things and details in the distance, which means you could miss, you know, some weapons on the ground, items, whatever it may be. And the final disadvantage would be there's an adjustment period. When you're transitioning from the native resolution or even vice versa, it can be very disorientating and hard to get used to at first. And in some cases, it actually makes your game feel faster. Like, I don't know how to explain that, but when you go to like really stretch res, it feels really unbelievably fast for some reason. And like not in a good way, in like confusing way, which can really mess up your aim and your muscle memory. Now, to kind of recap, why might stretch resolution help or not help your gameplay in particular? Now, why it helps improve focus, you know, the enlarged models and smoother gameplay from the higher FPS can help help make you focus on, more technical situations and fights. And again, I want to clarify there's better performance, especially on lower NPCs. So if you have a weaker system, you get the better FPS boost. But on the other hand, why this could be a disadvantage to your gameplay is because of a loss of awareness. And I'm talking peripheral awareness, so not like particular focus. It may provide the illusion of a wide FOV, or in some cases actually give you that, but it does come at a cost of a decreased visual, or in some cases vertical awareness. For Fortnite, particularly in this current state, it is a big problem because building is a vertical intensive mechanic. I bet you haven't heard that one before. Oh, and also it generally gives you visual fatigue. This can be tiring for the eyes, and if you're playing a lot and trying to improve, it can really become problematic, health-wise. So my overall conclusion, whether stretch resolution makes you play better really just depends on your hardware, your preferences, as well as the situations you're countering within the game. So I guess what kind of player you are. Competitive players with older PCs may benefit most due to the increased FPS and better responsiveness, but players focus on, their aesthetics and clarity of the game, especially those with higher NPCs, might honestly prefer staying at native resolution. And you see this in most pro players, and especially content creators. Maybe not for the competitive side, but for the visuals of, the video they're creating. So before making the switch, really ponder on this video, weigh the advantages, the disadvantages carefully, and just test it out in creative mode. If it aligns with your playstyle, give it some time. There's that adjustment period. Continue using it. And if it doesn't, don't. But don't keep switching on and off. And also, I've made full videos on how to use it, all that good stuff. I've got everything on my channel, guys. Come on.